Hi, this is Tyler with Lessons on Life. In this segment, we're going to take a look at Orison Swett Marden's 1919 book, Ambition and Success. First, we're going to read some chapters from the book, and then we're going to see how we can apply its lessons to our own lives. In this video, we're going to focus on the first two chapters, and at the end of the video, we'll take a look at the two chapters in depth and explore some strategies to help us integrate the lessons into our lives. So, without further ado, here are chapters 1 and 2 of Orison Swett Marden's Ambition and Success. Chapter 1. What is ambition? Ambition is the spur that makes man struggle with destiny. It is heaven's own incentive to make purpose great and achievement greater. In a factory where mariners' compasses are made, the needles, before they are magnetized, will lie in any position, wherever they are placed. But from the moment they have been touched by the mighty magnet and have been electrified, they are never again the same. They have taken on a mysterious power and are new creatures. Before they are magnetized, they do not answer the call of the North Star. The magnetic pole does not have any effect upon them, but the moment they have been magnetized, they swing to the magnetic north, and are ever after loyal and true to their affinity. Multitudes of people, like an unmagnetized needle, lie motionless, unresponsive to any stimulus until they are touched by that mysterious force we call ambition. Whence comes this overmastering impulse which pushes human beings on, each to his individual goal? Where is the source of ambition, and how and when does it gain entrance into our lives? How few of us ever stop to think what ambition really means, its cause or significance. Yet, if we could explain just what ambition is, we could explain the mystery of the universe. The instinctive impulse to keep pushing on and up is the most curious and most interesting thing in human life. It exists in every normal human being and is just as pronounced and as real as the instinct of self-preservation. I believe this incessant inward prompting, call it ambition or what we will, this something which pushes men to their goal, is the expression in man of the universal force of evolution, which is flowing Godward, that it is part of the great cosmic plan of creation. We do not create this urge, we do not manufacture it. Every normal person feels this imperious must, which is back of the flesh, but not of it, this internal urge, which is ever pushing us on, even at the cost of our discomfort and sacrifice. It is a part of every atom, for all atoms are alive, and this upward impulse is in every one of them. It is in the instinct of the bee, the ant, and in all forms of insect and animal life. The same kind of urge that is in the seed buried out of sight, and which is ever pushing up and out through the soil, prodding it to develop itself to the utmost and to give its beauty and fragrance to the world, is in each one of us. It is ever pushing us, urging us on to fuller and completer expression, to a larger, more beautiful life. But for this desire to get on and get up, this God urge, everything, even the universe itself, would collapse. Inertia would bring everything to a standstill. If we obey this call, we expand, blossom into beauty and develop into fruitage. But if we neglect or dissipate it, if we only half obey it, we remain mere scrub plants without flower or fruitage. That mysterious urge within us never allows us to rest, but is always prodding us for our good, because there is no limit to human growth, and there is no satisfying human ambition, man's higher aspiration. When we reach the height which looks so attractive from below, we find our new position as unsatisfying as the old, and a perpetual call to go higher still rings in our ears. A divine impulse constantly urges us to reach our highest ideal. Faith and the ideal still remain the most powerful levers of progress and of happiness, says Jean Finot. Did you ever hear of a man who had striven all his life, faithfully, and singly towards an object? Asked Thoreau, and in no measure obtained it? If a man constantly aspires, is he not elevated? Did ever a man try heroism magnanimity, truth, sincerity, and find that there was no advantage in them, that it was a vain endeavor? Aspiration finally becomes inspiration and ennobles the whole life. When the general habit of always aspiring, moving upwards, and climbing to something higher and better is formed, all the undesirable qualities and the vicious habits will fade away. They will die from lack of nourishment. Only those things grow in our nature which are fed. The quickest way to kill them is to cut off their nourishment. The craving for something higher and better is the best possible antidote and remedy for the lower tendencies which one wishes to get rid of. Every faintest aspiration that springs up in our heart is a heavenly seed within us which will grow and develop into rich beauty if it only be fed, encouraged. The better things do not grow either in material or mental soil without care and nourishment. Only weeds, briars, and nauseous plants thrive easily. Most young people seem to think that ambition is a quality that is born in one and which cannot be materially changed. But the greatest ambition may be very materially injured in many different ways. The habit of procrastination, of postponing, the habit of picking out the easier tasks and putting out the difficult ones, for example, will seriously impair the ambition. Whatever affects the ideas affect the ambition. Ambition often begins very early to knock for recognition. If we do not heed its voice, if it gets no encouragement after appealing to us for years, it gradually ceases to trouble us because, like any other unused quality or function, it deteriorates or disappears when unused. God is whispering into the ear of all existence, of every created thing, "Look up!" Every sentient thing in the universe seems to be trying to get to a higher level. Everything is in the process of evolution, and the evolution is always upward. The butterfly does not become a grub. This is not the evolutionary law. The grub develops into a butterfly. It is never the other way. Be careful how you discourage or refuse to heed that inner voice which commands you to go forward, for if you do, it will become less and less insistent until finally it will cease to prod you, and when ambition is dead, deterioration has set in. That inner call to go forward, to push to a higher good, is God's voice. Heed it. It is your best friend and will lead you into light and joy. Chapter 2. The Satisfied Man. F.W. Robertson has said, "Whoever is satisfied with what he does has reached his culminating point. He will progress no more. Man's destiny is to be not dissatisfied, but forever unsatisfied." One of the saddest things in life is to see men and women who started out with high hopes and proud ambitions settle down in mediocre positions, half satisfied, just merely to get a living, to plod along indifferently. Oh, what tragedy there is in being content with mediocrity, in getting into a state where one is indifferent to the larger, better things of life. When you are satisfied with the life you are living, with the work you are doing, with the thought you are thinking, with the dreams you are dreaming, satisfied with the character you are building, with your ideals, you may be sure that you are already beginning to deteriorate. There is little hope for the man who feels satisfied with himself, who does not know the noble discontent that stirs the acorn to become an oak. Man's ambition to improve something, somewhere, every day, to get a little further on and a little higher up than he was the day before, an insatiable passion for bettering things all along the line, is the secret of human progress. Do you realize, my young friend, that if the motive were big enough, if you had a very unusual incentive, you could materially improve upon what you are now satisfied to consider your best endeavor? As an employee, you may think that you are doing your level best. You are conscientious, loyal, true, and industrious, and yet, if a great prize should be offered you to bring your work up to a certain higher standard for the next 60 days, would you rest until you had succeeded in very greatly improving what you now think is your best work? Don't you think You who pride yourself that it would be impossible to better what you are now doing, that if your name were over the door as proprietor, instead of the name of the company you work for, you could jack yourself up about 50%, that you would somehow find a way of doing it. Don't you think that you'd be a little more ambitious? Make a little better use of your time, that you would try to call out a little more ingenuity and effectiveness, a little more resourcefulness? Do you think that you would jog along in the same half-hearted manner, thinking more of your salary than of your opportunity to absorb the secrets of your employer's success? Do you think that you would stand by without protest and see merchandise injured and wasted when you could stop it? Or that you would be so careless or make so many blunders yourself? Don't you think the prize to be gained would make you take a little more interest in things than you do now? Make you a little more alert, more eager for the success of the business? It is a deplorable sight to see so many young men and young women apparently so satisfied with themselves, with what they are doing, that they have no great yearnings, no insatiable longing for something higher and better. Multitudes of capable employees are satisfied to plod along in mediocrity instead of rising to the heights where their ability would naturally carry them. I have a friend who has a much superior brain to the man he's working for, and yet, for a great many years, he has been on an ordinary salary. He has never married. He takes life in an easygoing way, and whenever I have tried to encourage him to go into business for himself, to show him how much superior he is than the man he's working for, he always says, why would I exert myself more or take on greater business responsibilities? I have nobody but myself to consider. I like to have a good time, and I don't want to have to worry. The care and anxiety of running a business of my own, although I know perfectly well I could if I wanted to. Of course, the higher up in the world a man gets, the greater his responsibility. But think of the satisfaction which comes from the consciousness that he has made the most of his talents, that he has not buried any of them in a napkin, the satisfaction which comes from the feeling that he has made good, that he has delivered his message to the world and delivered it like a man, that he has fulfilled his mission, that he has made the most possible of the material and the opportunities that were given to him. The feeling that he has no regrets, that he has done his level best, more than compensates for any additional effort or greater responsibility. We tend to become like our aspirations. If we constantly aspire and strive for something better and higher and nobler, we cannot help broadening and improving. The ambition that is dominant in the mind tends to work itself out in the life. If this ambition is sordid and low and animal, we shall develop these qualities, for our lives follow our ideals. Civilization has made its greatest advancement under the stress of necessity, under the leadership of a great ambition to satisfy the heart's yearnings for better things. We do our best work while we are trying desperately to match our dreams with their reality. The struggle of man to rise a little higher, to get into a little more comfortable position, to secure a little better education, a little better home, to gain a little more culture and refinement, to possess that power which comes from being in a position of broader and wider influence through the acquirement of property, is what has developed the character and the stamina of our greatest types of manhood today. This upward life trend gives others confidence in us. When we have attained a little success, when we have gained a little public applause, how many of us think we can relax our efforts? And before we realize it, our ambition has disappeared, our energy evaporated. A sort of lethargy comes over us and lulls us into inaction. First successes, and especially early successes, to many act like an opiate. They are overcome with inertia, which only an unsatisfied and determined ambition can overcome. It takes more grit and a stronger will to force ourselves to do our level best after we have demonstrated without doubt that we have ability to do what we undertake than it does to achieve the actual first success itself. One of the greatest enemies to ambition is personal inertia, and it is one of the hardest things to overcome. The temptation to slide along the line of least resistance, to get into a comfortable position and take one's ease, is so strong that many allow it to master them. The ambition is not persistent enough or strenuous enough to shame them out of their inertia or prod them on to greater things. Mediocrity is often a premium upon laziness. The poet tells us, "He who would climb the heights sublime or breathe the pure air of life must not expect to rest in ease, but brace himself for toil or strife." One of the most discouraging problems in the world is that of trying to help the ambitionless, the half-satisfied, those who have not discontent enough in their natures to push them on, initiative enough to begin things, and persistency enough to keep them going. If a young man is apparently satisfied to drift along in a humdrum way, half content with his accomplishments, undisturbed by the fact that he has used but a very small part of himself, a very small percentage of his real ability, that his energies are running to waste in all sorts of ways, you cannot do much with him. If he lacks ambition, life, energy, and vigor, is willing to slide along the line of least resistance and exerts himself as little as possible, there is nothing upon which to build. It is the young man who is not satisfied with what he does, and who is determined to better his best every day, who struggles to express the ideal, to make the possible in him a reality, that wins. Activity is the law of growth, effort the only means of improvement. Whenever men have obeyed their lower nature and ceased to struggle to better their condition, they have deteriorated physically, mentally, and morally, while, just in proportion as they have striven honestly and incessantly to improve their situation, they have developed a larger and nobler human type. When a man who is said to be the highest salaried official in the United States was asked to give the secret of his success, he replied, "I haven't succeeded. No real man ever succeeds. There is always a larger goal ahead." It is a small man who succeeds in his own estimation. Really great men never reach their goal, because they are constantly pushing their horizon out further and further, getting a broader vision, a larger outlook, and their ambition grows with their achievement. If you are getting a fair salary in a mediocre position, there is danger of hypnotizing yourself into the belief that there is no need to exert yourself very much to get up higher. There is danger of limiting your ambition so that you will be half content to remain a perpetual clerk when you really have the ability to do much better. This satisfaction with the lesser, when the greater is possible, often results from relatives or friends telling you that you are doing well, and that you would better let well enough alone. These advisors say, "Don't take chances with a certainty. It is true that you are not getting a very big salary, but it is a sure thing. And if you give it up with the hopes of something better, you may do worse. Don't let anyone or any conditions make you think you have not the ability to match your longings. Wrapped up in every human being, there are energies which, if unfolded, concentrated, and given proper attention, will develop his highest ideal. Our longings are creative principles, prophecies, indicative of potentials equal to the task of actual achievement. These latent potencies are not given to mock us. There are no sealed orders wrapped within the brain without accompanying ability to execute them. When you get a glimpse of yourself as you were intended by your Maker to be, with all of your latent possibilities developed into realities, when you once see yourself as the superb man it is possible for you to be, nothing and no one but yourself can prevent you from attaining your ambition. It is only the man who has stopped growing that feels satisfied with his achievements. The growing man feels a great lack of wholeness, of completeness. Everything in him seems to be unfinished because it is growing. The expanding man is always dissatisfied with his accomplishment, is always reaching out for something larger, fuller, completer. I hope you've enjoyed these first 2 chapters. Now it's time to put it into practice. From chapter 1, we learn that this calling to move onward and upward is in our very nature. This, however, doesn't guarantee that the ambition will ever lead to anything. It's our personal responsibility to direct our ambition to worthwhile goals and ideals. If we don't earnestly follow our ambitions, then we're throwing away the very thing that allows us to truly grow as individuals. The feeling that one has wasted their precious time and frittered away what energy they once had is one of the worst possible feelings you could have. In chapter 2, Marden makes the point that in order to really grow, you always need to be pushing forward, always attempting to realize your ideals. Whenever you cease to struggle onward, you place yourself on a sure path towards deterioration. This is not what was meant for us. If it was, then we never would have any ambition in the first place. The very fact that we have this feeling of ambition indicates to us that we have the potential to achieve. To allow these ambitions to fade is to allow the most brilliant part of us to die. So if we're looking to make practical use of these lessons, we can frame it in this way. 1. Honor yourself by taking your ambitions seriously and following them the best you can. 2. Know that if you procrastinate and ignore your ambitions, they will eventually fade away. 3. If you have an ambition to accomplish something in particular, that is a sign that you are capable of realizing it. And 4. Stay active and keep moving forward. Here are some questions for self-reflection. I encourage you to spend some time thinking about these and doing some journaling. What are some ambitions of mine that I have let fade away? What can I do now to rekindle the flame? Do I sometimes take the easy road when I know that it is depriving me of growth? What makes the easy road so attractive? And list one thing that you'd like to accomplish in your life and what you can do today to start working toward that goal. Well, thank you for your time in listening to these chapters and going through these lessons. I hope that you can use them to your best advantage. This is Tyler with Lessons on Life. Take care. Onward and upward.